Welcome to Let's Talk About CRPS, a podcast brought to you by MTI directly from Italy. We will talk about the latest news and treatments, patients' experiences, and exclusive interviews of CRPS experts. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, crps-treatment.com. Let's take off! Hi guys, welcome to Let's Talk About CRPS. This is your host, Emily. Today we have a very special guest, Susanna Spitz. She is a speaker, a comic, an educator, an actress, a writer, and a CRPS warrior. Let's welcome Susanna. Hi, Susanna.
Hi, thank you so much, Emily. It's so nice to see you.
It's very nice to have you here. So let's dive right in, and just for everyone listening today, present yourself to everyone on the podcast.
So my name is Susanna, as you said so beautifully, and I have been working as a sort of a comedian and an actor and an entertainer and a business owner for many years, over 20 years, and I developed CRPS in 2022, January, from a bad car accident that I had. And I've been trying to sort of use this horrible disease in some way, in a way of incorporating it in my life now, which is very different.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a quick little summary of who I am and what my background is.
Okay. Would you like to get into a bit more details in your CRPS story?
Sure. So I got CRPS in January of 2022. I was in a very bad car accident, and I was T-boned and the car flipped over, and I was on the bottom of the car, and I noticed when the car was flipped upside down, everything was on my arm, and I was very scared that my arm actually had been cut off. It was such intense pain. And fortunately, construction workers saw the car accident, flipped the car over, and I was taken to the ambulance, and I suffered a broken sternum and wrist, and fortunately, I made it. But they noticed when they just normally put my arm in a cast, thinking the wrist and the arm are broken, and ribs and sternum you can't really cast. But I knew that something seemed odd because the amount of pain when I was in a cast, and my orthopedic surgeon, the man who had the cast on me, mentioned he was concerned. He mentioned the acronym CRPS at that time, and I didn't know what it was. And when the cast was removed, there was such significant pain that when I started occupational therapy, the occupational therapist then said, "I'm very concerned that you have CRPS." And of course, then the symptoms started really presenting themselves: the shiny hand, the hair on the arm, the discoloration. I still wear an air cast because it at least helps me have security around my arm. 2 years later, it's still burning. I still can't open my hand all the way. And I've tried everything under the sun, at least in terms of my immediate availability to where I was living at the time. Yeah, it's a battle every single day, as we know. So I'm so grateful to you and this amazing place and your podcast for bringing us together. I have been trying to incorporate CRPS within the work that I do. Even in this pain, believe it or not, I'm a comedian, and I've been making my living teaching comedy for over 20 years. And so I took everything I could and tried to channel it into a one-person show, trying to sort of educate others about CRPS, because sadly, so many people just don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
And so that's where I am. And that's,
yeah. So I watched your show, of course. I absolutely loved it. If you have the chance to go and see Susanna, go for it. I know that a lot of your dates are already full, but if anybody has the chance and go see it, I recommend it 100%. I wondered though, throughout the show while I was watching it, what is it like to be a comedian with CRPS?
Well, I mean, it's almost like saying it's like you're wearing two different things, because one is making people laugh and trying to incorporate something that's positive from something that's so difficult. But that's the irony with humor, and what I've been teaching all these years is comedy. Usually you can draw on some stuff that it's the hard stuff that you can draw on that really can be very medicinal and very cathartic to be able to share your story or someone else's or whatever the case may be. Humor is a really great proponent for getting through something. It doesn't make something funny or light. It's a way to relate. And that's been sort of my muscle I've used for so many years, that I have to try to transfer it into something like that, or else I don't know where to put all of this. And you can go nowhere. As we know with CRPS, there are many days where I don't leave my bed. This is like a big deal, even to be on a podcast. And there's some days I feel better. It's very hard to gauge, but regardless, comedy has been sort of my gym. It's been my outlet. And I started doing voice dictation when I was going through all my treatments when I first was diagnosed. And because I couldn't write, it's my dominant hand and arm. So everything has had to shift into other ways of being able to adapt. I don't drive anymore. And I just started transferring all of my experiences on a dictation. And then it started accumulating. And then I've only performed Wasted, the show, twice. But it sold out both in LA and New York. And my goal is to be able to bring it anywhere. So if you are listening and you would like to learn about my show, I can send a teaser or I can talk to you about it. And then my goal in 2025 is to bring more awareness by performing it, because it is very engaging. It's over 30 characters, and it tells a story of what I've experienced, but in a way that is through humor, that people hopefully can find the thread of laughing through something so tragic. So that's kind of what it's been like.
So the show has a huge focus, of course, on CRPS, and that's something I don't think I've asked you that before. Were you a comedian? Were you a stand-up comedian already before CRPS?
I started doing comedy about 23 years ago. And
okay.
My diagnosis was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I've still taken some time to get back on stage. I still try, and again, I'm sure maybe you talk with others that feel the same way. You know, you want to put on your best fight. You want to put on your best foot forward, but you're constantly battling what you're feeling. And so that's the challenge. And so I just try to use humor in a way that I don't have to put up a fight. I can channel it in a way that is it's my muscle that I'm used to, which is making people laugh. And slowly I'm doing it more and more. But yeah, no, I've been doing comedy, performing it and teaching it for 24 years. And then CRPS came in 2022. So it's that part of me I don't know. I know the comedian much more than I know this new person.
Yeah, being very focused on CRPS. I think because we swim in CRPS all day long, we talk to CRPS patients, we talk to CRPS specialized doctors. So I think what I see, I know that the patients that we followed, or anyone listening to the podcast who would want to see a show, would really find themselves in this show, because all the things you said, I recognize them all, not having CRPS myself, like I told you before, but just because of working with so many patients, they can recognize themselves 100% in everything that you're saying. And I think it's so liberating to be able to see someone talk about it so freely, knowing that, you know, all the things that so many people hear, it's in your head, and just, like you say in your show too, you know, like just breathe in and the pain is gonna go away, and that's not something. And just recognizing all of your symptoms, all of your daily struggle in someone else who's touching the subject with such a positive vibe, let's say. I think, you know, I would definitely recommend for anyone fighting CRPS to watch the show, because it's just the way it probably helps you cope with CRPS. It would help everyone that is living with CRPS cope with CRPS in the way you're doing it.
Well, thank you. That's my goal. I mean, my goal really is to be able to bring my show. It's 1 hour long. to different events and different facilities, not just for us that as a community with CRPS, but to bring awareness to medical facilities and to doctors. I still meet with doctors and they're like, what CRP? They don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think there was that movie on Netflix, Take Care of Maya, that I finally feel like there was some liberation, even though the story is god awfully, unbelievably sad. But there was camaraderie that we're not alone. Finally, people know what this acronym is and what is this complex regional pain syndrome, and that's really what my show is about. And I think that as a community at large, that makes me so glad to know that you found you could relate to it, even not having had it, but also to let people know that this is a significant disease that many of us have, and that we're trying desperately to explain it to others that we love or those that we don't even know. But most importantly, also the medical community at large, which your facility is so amazing at, in understanding that this is real, that people want to just exit the world because the pain is so significant. And this is something that I'm so adamant about trying to bring awareness in an engaging way. People will often, my whole life, people will say, oh, you're funny, so say something funny. I mean, the content in this is that I bring humor through characters that I do, but there's nothing funny about CRPS. It's a coping mechanism that I choose because otherwise I will just disintegrate. And I find it like it has to be my gasoline every day. That's my motivation. And I teach comedy as well. I've had students that are CRPS warriors that they're thinking, how can I be funny through this mess? But believe it or not, you can find the humor through your own frustration around it. When you're asked on a pain scale 1 to 10, 25 times in 5 minutes, it gets really annoying. But you can find humor from that because you can take the frustration and you can find humor from it. And so many people I find have gotten a lot out of trying to find what's the flip that you can switch with humor to be a through way to get through something. And it's very effective, and it's been my lifesaver.
Yeah. So another very interesting fact about you, Susanna, is you are a resource warrior and vendor for the CRPS Warrior Foundation in California. And I just wanted you to tell us more about what you do with them.
So I became a resource warrior for the CRPS Foundation, which is a small nonprofit in Marietta, California, through actually a student that was one of my students in my online it's called Finding Your Funny. It's an online comedy class, and she's had CRPS for over 20 years, and she's been on their advisory board. And then I started working with her, and then I got in touch with the foundation because they often are looking for what they call resource advisors or resource vendors to be able to provide whatever their expertise may be in a panel of people to provide resources for other patients with CRPS to be able to utilize in some way. So there are different instructors from yoga to holistic medicine to doctors to I'm a comedian and I teach comedy to different advocates of CRPS that can help those that might be interested in using as a resource for a positive change. And so I've been with them. I haven't been that actively physically working with them because it's really more online that I provide resources for any of their members that would like to use. Like I'll give classes and certainly free demos or anything I can for anybody that might be interested in working with me, or speaking and engaging with anybody that might be interested within the foundation. I want to be in support of.
How did you hear about Neridronate?
I heard about Neridronate when I was researching, trying to find. I mean, I've tried everything from scrambler treatment to nerve blocks to, water aquatics, occupational therapy, physical therapy. I mean, we all try our different resources. And I had heard about it when I was researching, and I've always actually been very drawn to Italy as sort of an admirer of your country. And then I was reading and following stories of people who had gone over, Americans or people from Britain, and And I was very curious about it because I know that ketamine is obviously something that people have tried to use in different capacities that has been either effective or not effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had found it when I was doing my research, and you're one of the few places I think that I understand that is actually administering this form of treatment.
So basically the treatment itself is, a standard treatment all over in Italy. So it is administered in clinics all around. The kind of services that we provide, so the whole organization of the trip and the accommodations and transport and interpreters and all of this around, we're the only one in Italy doing it right now, yeah. But the treatment itself is standard normal procedure in Italy, yeah. So what are the options in the States right now for CRPS warriors?
I mean, I'm trying to find it myself. I can honestly say I was very I had a lot more fuel when I was first diagnosed, and it's 2 years in. So some people have to say 30 years. I'm still only fairly new in, but admittedly, I really lose. It's very difficult to find energy to do much because you're constantly fighting the pain. That I started feeling very disappointed because the methods that I was using wasn't working for me.
Mm-mm.
And so, I mean, there are methods like I had mentioned, and some people are very, very positively affected by, like something called the scrambler treatment,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know, electrodes that are put on and they send electronic currents to sort of offset the pain signals. I went to, I think, 9 out of 10 treatments, and unfortunately, it didn't work. It does work on some, and a lot of people find a lot of great reprieve. Other things are like, you know, strong medications. I personally, I'm not an advocate, and that's just me. I'm very apprehensive of gabapentin and all these different medicines that are
Mm-hmm.
very quickly prescribed. They, unfortunately, I've heard, have not been very positive on a majority of people, and perhaps again on some. I can only speak for myself that I chose not to go that route.
Yeah.
It wasn't helpful to me, and it was something I'm very apprehensive of. Mine is a case where I have CRPS too, but I also have nerve damage. So it's not just specific to CRPS, but I have neuropathy on top
Mm-hmm.
of it. So like I have layers. That's why a nerve block, that's another option. People go and get nerve blocks, and either they're very effective or they're not. For me, it didn't work. So
Mm-mm.
it feels like nothing has necessarily worked for me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to adjust my life around this thing and
Mm-mm.
find the motivation again to see what might be feasible.
Yeah. So what would your message be to all the CRPS patients all around the globe?
I think my message to anybody with CRPS patients around the globe is this is emotional. You got to keep going. It's very tough. You're not alone. Um, it is very important that you find a community of people or loved ones that understand. You know, my dog is my best friend. She understands, um, because it is a very isolating disease. And I think the most important message is that you're not alone. To find your community. I think what you're doing at your clinic is incredible. If I can get the resources, I will figure out my way to maybe make my way toward you. But I love what you're doing, even from just collecting people virtually to try to know that there is a community at large. And believe it or not, even through me fighting back, kind of swallowing some tears, find a way to use your pain in a way that is proactive. Like, find a way to utilize it rather than it overtake you, because there are days, like I said, I'll probably go right back to bed, and this is my, you know, 1 hour where I'm in front of the computer, but at least that's an hour that's positively working against the pain winning. And
Yeah.
so it's putting yourself in a capacity where I look at it like it's an entity, and I have to fight it. And I do it through humor, and I do it through helping other people, and that helps me feel better. And it might sound very Pollyanna, but that's what I've been doing for many years. Is I'm a comedy coach. That's what I do for my living. And I think that it would get the best of me if I just completely stopped doing any of that, because then it wins, and it wins every day in some capacity. And I think that we have to combat it every day. It's a choice. That's the cards that we've been dealt. And you're not alone. That's the most important message, is that you're not alone. I feel very alone often, and I know I'm not, but you're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Before we close, I really wanted to say that I think what you've done is very, very both brave and beautiful, because you've taken something that was already yours with the comedy show, and you've taken something that became yours without you wanting it to be yours, which is CRPS, and you just joined these two and you made it your strength. You didn't let this thing become the new you. You said, okay, this is going to be part of me, but this is not going to be me. This is going to be a part of me, and I'm going to make it fit like a piece of a puzzle in what is already my life. And it's not going to be the biggest thing in my life. It's going to be a part, but I'm going to be the one deciding what part it is.
Yeah.
And I think, I wish everyone with CRPS and, any chronic pain condition, any condition ever, had the strength that you have, and managed to deal with it the way you do. I know it's very difficult. And like you said, the most important part is really to make everyone know that they're not alone. They have a community, and there are solutions to help with the pain. So I just wanted to, tell you that, because I watched the show and I got really emotional and I laughed a lot, and I really had the deep, deep inside of your life since CRPS with the show. And it was just very, very beautiful. And I just wanted to say that before we got off, because
Thank you, Emily.
I don't know how many people get to tell you that after seeing the show, and I think it's a very important thing to say. You're so brave and such a strong woman, and I'm glad that you're helping people doing the same thing.
Well, I have to thank you and everything you're doing at your clinic as well. I mean, I feel like if there's more of us to try to send a message out, to know that there is resources out there, whether it's humor or artistry or any kind of treatments or anything at all, that there is an end in sight. And again, I think that there's power in numbers, and what you're offering to those such as myself or anybody else within your incredible facility. I wish America doesn't have the same kind of medical opportunities, unfortunately, and insurance and everything else is such a messed up situation here. And I love that Italy at large is advocating for a treatment that is working for people. It just go figure. It's another reason why I love Italy. I mean, I knew I loved Italy in the beginning, and I now feel even more drawn to it. But I just it means the world that you can give people that opportunity, um, and to give them hope, because life is so fragile as we know it. And if my messaging can give people a little bit of hope to know they're not alone, or have a little bit of laughter or a little bit of something for an hour, then it's the same thing that I applaud you in response to your message, that you're giving people a glimmer of hope. And that's the most important thing. Biggest that's the biggest advocate that we can have. And it sounds maybe corny or out there, but seriously, the minute we give up hope, I've been there. I have, again, like I said, I have days, I know we can all relate. And you have to keep the hope alive. You have to find it. And I just want to say to anybody who's listening that if you ever want to learn or ever want to try to figure out, is there any way I can transfer any of these emotions in some way to make it feel cathartic, or talk about it through learning stand-up comedy or learning humor, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I do. It's what makes me thrive. And I know ways of doing it. Believe it or not, you can transfer your pain, which feels like the devil, and you can feel really, really empowered by finding humor around it. because it can't win when you get that energy around it. And please don't hesitate to reach out. If I can be of any support, I'm 100% there. And if you ever want to see my show, I would love to bring my show anywhere you are. That's my goal. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps our community at large together. And that's what we can really teach the people that don't know what this thing is, that it's real and you're not alone. And there's power in numbers.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Thank you so much, Susanna. For everyone listening, thank you for, being with us during this podcast. It's important for us to bring awareness on the condition. So any way we can do it is always a win. Thank you, Susanna, for participating in this podcast. It's our little way of, trying to bring awareness on the condition, but hopefully little way plus little way plus little way, we're going to create a big way. We're just going to manage to bring the awareness that the condition deserves. So thank you so much for being here with us today on this episode. And for everyone else, we'll see you next week on the next episode of Let's Talk About CRPS. Thank you so much, Susanna. And I hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susanna. Bye-bye.